Welcome back to the Cleats Courts podcast. This is episode 2. We're going to be talking about NFL power rankings coming into the training camp season, and we're also going to get into the MLB trade deadline, which is only a week away. All right, so we get into that. I am your host, Lucas Forstner. Alongside me today, my co-host Taylor Woelfel. What is up, Taylor? You got the National League Central Chomps are on your shirt today.
Like 4 of the last 5 years or 5 of the last 6, something like that. So go Brewers, baby.
Oh yeah, our Brewers.
But,
We love our Brewers up in Wisconsin.
but I'm
Don't
doing
live
good.
there
How are you
anymore.
doing? Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
I'm doing
answer your
great.
question. That's on
Yeah,
me.
we'll get into it. But welcome back. This is episode 2. We'll be talking a little NFL today. We're just kind of briefly talk NFL because we're going to get into the NFL so much more as the training camp season goes on, and then once we get into preseason, regular season, all that stuff's coming up this fall. Other than that, we're going to talk MLB trade deadline because that is coming up right around the corner here. See what teams are going to be making some big splashes before the playoff season gets around here. Hopefully our Milwaukee Brewers make some moves. But first thing we're going to be talking about today, we're going to get into our power rankings. So Taylor and I have both created our own power rankings. It's just going to be a top 10. We're going to see where we differ, where we're kind of the same on these power rankings. All the teams just got into training camp now this week, so we're getting excited. Right, football season, so we made some power rankings to kind of see where we end up by the end of the year. But we're going to change these as the week goes on. Every week goes on in the regular season, similar to most power rankings. So let's jump into it, Taylor. We're going to go back and forth. Go ahead and share who comes in at number 10 for you.
Number 10 for me would be the team with the best defense in the league, the Houston Texans. And I just really like that defense. It was looking so good last year in the playoffs, and they just need the quarterback to figure it out a little bit and not turn it over on every other play. So I'm feeling pretty good about them. So who do you have at your number 10?
I'm going to go with the team that the Texans knocked out in the playoffs last year, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Mm,
And why I put them there, I think they can crack that top 10 right off the bat this year, having Aaron Rodgers back at the helm. They added Michael Pittman. Um, they've got Rico Dowdle as well on there. Jamel Dean they added on that roster. Beef up that defense a little bit. And then, of course, Big Mike McCarthy is back with the Steelers. So
Big
had to
Mike.
put him. I mean, Mike McCarthy, he doesn't coach bad teams. So I got to put the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan. So I want to see him have success in his final year. But all that aside, they brought back most of that roster, so that's why I got Steelers falling at number 10. Who do you have at number 9 on your list?
Number 9, we go with Big Mike's former team, or one of his former teams, now that he has two of them, but the Green Bay Packers at number 9. Jordan Love MVP season coming soon, I would say. He looks so good for most of the season and then inevitably gets hurt. So yeah, a little Packers football back there. So,
Got that
and I
ball
just think they're
already.
going to be pretty solid. I know you might have some more things to say about them later on in the rankings, but I mean they'll be pretty solid with the three wide receiver core they have now, and they don't have a whole bunch of guys to shuffle through and get reps to, so they can just kind of rely on those main three and get in a rhythm. And Big Tucker Kraft and Micah coming back from knee injuries is going to be a game changer come playoff time. And yeah, I'm just excited to see how the season goes for them. So, what about you? Who's number 9 for you, Lucas?
We're going to be different again. I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I think Bills are always in that power rankings. They're always been a contender since Josh Allen's been at the helm for them at QB. I don't have them too high on this list just because they do have
That's
a new
pretty
coach.
low.
I
That's
know
pretty low for the Bills.
it is. I think the defense. I don't know how many big changes they've truly made on that defense. Um, I mean, I guess they got Bradley Chubb, but other than that, like that defense did struggle quite a bit last year, so I'm a little worried about that. And then offensively, they did add DJ Moore, but I think like weapons wise, I mean they still have Cook, but um, like receivers wise, I just worry a little bit about how they can perform consistently in big time games. Um, but obviously they're still a very good team. But I put them at 9 just because new head coach. I know he was there last year's OC,
Mhm.
so it shouldn't matter too much. But um, threw them in at 9 just because of the reasons I have all the other teams above them. But we'll get into that in a second. Who do you have at number 8?
The Philadelphia Eagles. A little bit of maybe addition by subtraction there when you lose AJ Brown and the constant storyline every week of do you want the ball more? Are you happy here? Blah blah blah. Like do you get along with Jalen Hurts? Like that's just that gets old every time you have to get asked about that any press conference you have. And they still have a super good defensive line. Just paid Jalen Carter the big bucks to stay there for a long time, and they're just always solid and reliable with Jalen Hurts there. So I feel pretty solid about them being at number eight. So what about you? Who's your number eight?
This is where we are similar. I also have the Eagles at number 8. I think
Nice.
a lot of the same reasons, but I think the losing AJ is going to be a big hit. I think on that offense. I know like his production wasn't always there with just the way they play and their play style that they have right now, but um, I still have them in the top 10 because they've been a top 10 team in the league for the last handful of years, especially with Hurts at QB. But they still have Saquon. They're always willing to run the ball, and they will run the ball down most teams' throats. And then defensively, they're just always hitting. Like that D line is stout. Usually they're like backers or safeties or corners. Everybody's hitting. They fly around on defense. So I think putting that at number 8 just because their weapons at receiver aren't solidified, I'd say, there. Kai Lemon, adding him, I think, this year should help them. But yeah, losing AJ Brown on offense is going to be tough for them. But yeah, but we are the same at number 8. I think kind of the same reasons. They're still the Eagles, and they still have the same coaches, same system, right? So that's kind of why I just threw them in there at that. What do you have for number 7?
I have the might be a little controversial, but the NFC East rival of the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys, I guess. I don't know if it's from living in the South and there's so many Cowboy fans around me and I just hear about them too often, but I think they could be pretty good this year. So they didn't do too many additions as they have a lot of money tied up on offense, but they did trade for Rashawn Gary, which Packer fans we feel a certain way about him. He may not help you too much, but it'll be at least something on the outside to rush the passer. And then they drafted that safety from Ohio State, Caleb Downs, which people loved, but they just didn't want to draft a safety in the top 10 for some reason. But if he's a stud, he's a stud. So I just think the defense can't be much worse than it was last year. So even if they improve just a little bit, they got George Pickens and CD and Javante Williams and Jake Ferguson and Dak on offense. So I think they're going to be putting up points again. So all it will come down to is if the defense can stop people a little bit. But I think they're gonna be in for a solid year. So, but who do you have at number seven, Lucas?
I can't argue there with your Cowboys take. I think just because Jerry
Oh, don't
Jones,
say
he
your Cowboys. Don't say that. I don't like
your
hearing
yeah,
that. So,
you got them at number 7. I don't know if they made my top 10, but they're in yours. But yeah, for Sean Gary, best of luck to you down there. You get to join Kenny Clark again with the Cowboys, so hoping the best there. I do like Caleb Downs though, so I'll be excited to see him ball out this year. Also surprised that more teams weren't high on him drafting him. He's been a stud in college the last 3 years, so I think that's a huge addition for them. But my number 7 are the 49ers. I think the 49ers kind of a sleeper team this year, just because they had a lot of injuries last year, especially towards the end of the year. They had a lot of injuries. Still went out, won a playoff game. Um, they got smacked in the next round, but other than that, they still were a playoff team. Won a playoff game last year. Um, they're going to get all these guys. They're going to get Bosa back. They're going to get Warner back. Greenlaw's in there. Kittle should be back, and also the addition of Mike Evans is going to help out a lot too. He's getting up there in age, but he can still ball out. He proved that last year. That's why I got the 49ers in there. I think not many people are talking about the Niners this year, especially heading into the training camp this time. Um, with that being said, they also have CMC. So as long as you got him, your offense can be rolling. You're going to be dangerous. And when that defense is healthy, they are a really tough team to beat. Who do you have at number 6?
I will just say something about the Niners real quick. Is that I was tempted to put them in the top
Go for
10,
it.
but you will not see them in mine because I just can't trust them in those injuries. They're always getting hurt. So I just stayed away from them for now, but I could be way wrong on that come week 6, 7. So we'll see what happens. But at my number six, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I know that's a team you're pretty high on as well. And they just added a couple good guys with Trey Hendrickson, and they drafted some young wide receivers because that was probably their biggest area of need. And Lamar, he had a not a Lamar type of season last year with being banged up, and he just didn't look like the former like what two-time MVP Lamar Jackson. So I think if he gets back to his ways and the defense can play a little bit better. And they have another team with a new head coach, and they got the defensive coordinator from the Chargers and Jesse Minter. I think they could turn that defense around a little bit, kind of like same thing with the Cowboys with like an improved defense. I think it'd be a good team to be on the lookout for. So I mean, and Lamar's just so much fun to watch when he's feeling good and healthy. So I'm really hopeful we get a healthy Lamar season this year and see what he can do there at Baltimore. So what about you? Who's six for you, Lucas?
Couldn't agree more with that Ravens take. But for number 6, I have the Green Bay Packers, the hometown team.
Homer. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, got it. I always Packers, even when they're not supposed to be good, they're going to be in my top 10. So we'll just throw that out there right now. But I think they're going to be returning some guys like Kraft. Tucker Kraft comes back this year. He was leading league touchdowns before he got injured last year. Um, Outside of him, they picked up Zaire Franklin. I think he's going to be a good addition on defense since they lost Quay. Um, Outside of that, who else did they pick up? Hargrave on defense. D line, their D line struggled a bit. As long as Wyatt's back too and
Yeah,
healthy, I
another
think
guy
they're
that
gonna.
was hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, they just got hammered with injuries at the worst time of the year last year, which really hurt them going in the playoffs. But obviously, Mike on defense, once he gets back, he's a monster. But yeah, the Packers, I don't have them in the top 5, but just put them at 6 because they're a team that can definitely be a top 3 seed in the NFC. But we'll see. Kind of see what happens. They're in a tough division still. I think if they can sneak out some wins against the Lions, they'll probably dominate the Bears in both games. But trying to beat the Lions
Mm.
and Vikings every time they play those teams is going to be tough. Um, and we'll get into the Vikings later on. But yeah, that's why I got Packers at 6. I think they're still a really good team. They bring back most of their players. Every piece that they lost, they brought in another guy to fill that role. So I think they're going to be solid. Receivers should all be back and healthy. Just hoping some of those guys can make a big jump this year. Who do you have at number 5, hitting the top 5 now?
I like that little shot you did at the Bears there and say they should dominate them both times. So I agree though, but I like how you
I'll
slid that
be
in there. So,
we'll be taking shots at the Bears every chance we get talking about the NFL. But
but
go ahead,
anyways,
number
yeah,
5.
my number five is the team that got destroyed in the Super Bowl, and the New England Patriots. That was just tough to watch. So like, but I think overall they're still a good team. Like the Seahawks were just on a different level last year, and the Patriots they had a pretty young team with that Will Campbell on the offensive line. He got destroyed in the Super Bowl. Like he was getting ran over left and right, but he was still a pretty high draft pick. So I don't think he's going to be that bad again this year. So, and they obviously added AJ Brown, and then they got Romeo Dobbs, former Packer, there to help give Drake May some more weapons. And Mays should only get a little bit better. Like he was already MVP two last year, so he had quite the season. But I think he's got unlimited potential. He looks so good and confident, and I think he should just be a little bit better this year. And I'm excited to see what Vrabel can do on that defense again because they just had a bunch of I don't want to say no name guys, but pretty much no name guys that just came into New England and just all meshed together really well, and they just got after it. So I'm excited to see what they can do in year two of Vrabel there and year three of Drake May. And I think they got a lot of potential there. So, what about you? Who's number five for you?
I'll be adding to that Patriots discussion in a second. But at number
Oh,
5,
preview.
I got the Broncos. Denver Broncos, obviously so close to making the Super Bowl last year. Bo Nix gets injured in the championship game, so that does not help, obviously. Which is probably a good thing that they didn't end up going to the Super Bowl without their starting quarterback from the entire season. But Broncos pretty much returning that solid, stout defense that they had last year, which was giving everybody problems throughout the entire year. And they came out to play throughout the playoffs as well. Some big name guys on that team as well. So I think just with that defense, how solid and stout they were, and then offensively, they kind of stay pretty much the same, other than adding Waddle. I think Waddle's could have a nice breakout year for them this year. Um, he's been kind of up and down with the Dolphins, but the Dolphins have been up and down in general. So he's definitely shown flashes of what he can do. He's had really good 1,000 yard seasons before too. So he's definitely a guy that can be that number one wide receiver or 1B, whatever you'd want to call it. But I think with addition of Waddle, Nick's getting back. He should be full go to start the year here. But the biggest thing is that defense. Like if you have a top five defense in the league, you're going to get to playoffs. You're going to win some games. So that is why I got the Broncos at number 5. What is your number 4 team?
The number 4 team for me is the team you had way down there at number 9, and I put the Buffalo Bills up there because you just can't hate on Josh Allen like that and put him way down there at number 9. That dude can just single-handedly carry you to a playoff win, which he always inevitably loses to Lamar Jackson or Mahomes in the playoffs or something like that. So one of these years, it's got to be his year. He's just so good. He's so fun to watch, and I'm excited to see what they can do with DJ Moore there in town. I think that was a pretty good trade to acquire him and let him be the number one out there. And maybe Keon Coleman can do something. He was a promising draft pick that just hasn't panned out yet. So year 3, maybe this is the year for some improvements. But I agree with what you said earlier about the Bills and adding Bradley Chubb to the defense and Joe Brady taking over as head coach. Maybe he'll just improve them somehow, some way, and get Josh Allen over the hump. So I'm excited to see what they can do, and Josh Allen's one of my favorite players to watch, so I'll definitely be watching a lot of him. So, what about you? Who's number 4 on your list?
My number 4 is the New England Patriots. And we all know they got smacked around in the Super Bowl last year, but like you mentioned before, the Patriots still have a really solid defense. They're bringing those guys back. Offensively, they brought in some more weapons. I think Drake May could take another jump this year. He's third year, right? Third year in the
Yep.
league.
Yep.
Yeah, so second year last year, he was in MVP discussions, right? Like very easily could have been the MVP of the league last year. So him still having the opportunity to grow and get better every year. I think they're going to take another jump this year. I think probably beat some better teams this year. I know last year um, their schedule wasn't quite as strong as other top teams that made the playoffs, but they still made the Super Bowl. Still beat the good teams when they needed to in the playoffs. So I think this year they're going to do pretty much the same thing they did last year: win a lot of games. Um, with adding Dobbs and Brown on offense, they have some firepower on that side now. Um, and then I love Henderson at tailback too. So watching him run around is gonna be fun this year, being in his second year too. So um, they're just gonna be a fun team to watch on offense now. They weren't quite as powerful, I'd say, not as dominant on offense as they could have been, but now they actually have some true weapons out there. So it's gonna be a really fun team, tough team to to beat, and then fun team to watch. Who do you have at number 3 in their top 3?
Number 3, I have the defending Super Bowl champions. It kind of feels disrespectful not to have them at 1, but I could not do that. So I put them at number 3, and they didn't really do a whole lot this offseason. They lost Kenneth Walker, which it'll hurt, but running backs are pretty easy to replace, easy in quotation marks, because it's tough to lose a good one. But they drafted that Jadarian Price in the first round, which he could slide in and be starter from day one and then just fill in what they lost from Kenneth Walker, and the defense will still be good. And see if Sam Darnold is. I mean, he's proven he's actually a good quarterback after his struggles to start his career. So I don't think there's any doubt of what you're going to get from Sam Darnold this year. But everything just seemed to go so well for them last year with Jackson Smith and Jigba just having a crazy good year last year, and it just everything just went so well for them. So I'm interested to see if they can replicate that, or if it was just a 1 year one-off type of thing, or if they're the real deal. So not really too much to say on them because they're the defending champions, so they don't have to say much more than that. So what about you? Who do we got? Who do you got number 3?
Number 3, I got Baltimore Ravens, and I think you had them a little bit pretty low on your list. Sorry, well, not that low. I guess number 6.
Only 6, yeah.
Um, it's still on your list as well. I think defensively they got better. They got Trey from the Bengals coming on over there. If they had Crosby, they'd be a really fun team to watch on defense. But their two safeties are solid safeties. And then that defense is still going to be pretty good overall. I think. Then they just adding Trey is going to be a key factor in that too. But then offensively, I think they made some pretty good draft choices with the two rookie receivers. Or was it Jacoby Lane and Surratt? I think
Yep.
those two guys could fill some roles, get some time, play some snaps. So I think those are some really good draft picks that they use in those first couple rounds. And then they still have King Henry and they still have Lamar Jackson. So that offense is going to be tough to stop still this year. But yeah, just those two receivers they've added. Minter's going to be getting those boys going on defense. So I'm excited to watch that team. I've always kind of been a fan of the Ravens. Like they're just a fun team to watch because they're always just tough physical football team. So that's why I got them at number 3. Just all those guys that I mentioned, think they could step up. It's nice to see that they actually got some weapons on offense. They haven't always had the best receivers on that team, so hopefully those young guys can kind of step up and help them make that next jump that they need to make. Now we're getting to the top 2. These two, well, top 1 would be kind of similar, but who do you have at number 2?
Number two, I have the Denver Broncos, which I agree with what you said when you had them at number five. Like it's hard to go wrong when you have a top defense like that. And Bo Nix, he looked another really good second year quarterback. He looked really good last year, so I'm excited to see what year three can bring him with Jalen Waddle in the fold. And I think him and Cortland Sutton can be a really good combo. Like it's a really good 1-2 punch at wide receiver. So I'm excited to see what they can do with Sean Payton calling the plays there, or at least head coach. And yeah, I mean, not much else to add to what you already said. And the Broncos are just pretty much always just a solid team. So see if they can improve from what they did last year and get over, or I guess if they didn't get hurt in the playoffs, if Bo Nix was there, that would have helped them a lot. But only so much you can do with injuries. So hopefully you just hope for some health, at least and to your quarterback because that's your most important part. And then hopefully you can get it done in the playoffs. So I'm excited to watch them though. They're just one of my teams that I've always liked to watch. I have an aunt in Wisconsin. She's a big Bronco fan, so I always have a little bit of soft spot in my heart for the Broncos and their nice bright orange jerseys. So I'm excited to see what they can do this year. But that's what I have at number two. So who's yours?
Just to add to that Broncos, I also have a relative that is a Broncos fan. Doesn't make me like the Broncos, but the Broncos are a very good team, and they are going to be very good this year. I agree. Obviously, that's why they're in both of our top fives at least. So, but my number 2 are Seattle Seahawks, are defending Super Bowl champions. I think like returning that defense, they were probably the best defense in the league last year and proved it, especially in the playoffs, beating some really good teams. Just ask the Patriots if that defense is good. Watching them in the Super Bowl, but and then offensively, like they lose Walker, but I think Price could play a pretty big role for them this year. Um, I'm trying to think who else is on the JSN on offense as well, and then Darnold's
Cooper
just going to
Cup's
kind of.
still there too.
Oh yes, they got Cooper Cup yet too, so they still pretty much have all those key guys that played a big role in winning the Super Bowl last year. So I know it's hard to win back to back years, but we'll see. As long as like staying healthy is obviously the name of the game, but they stayed pretty healthy last year, and we saw what happened. So if they can do that again this year, I think they could easily be top 2 or end up being Super Bowl champs. Have a feeling there's going to be somebody in the NFC that we are both about to mention that's probably going to give them their biggest fits this year.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears, right?
Yeah, that's weird. I didn't see the Bears in these top tens. Anyway, who is your number 1 team in your power rankings heading into training
Number
camp?
one, it's unfortunately pretty obvious, so no dramatics here, but it's got to be the Rams and just how good they looked last year on offense. And then all they did this offseason was trade for Miles Garrett, sign Trent McDuffie, or they traded for Trent McDuffie. They signed Jalen Watson, Cameron Curl to that's three big pieces of your secondary to add there to an already pretty stout defense with the really good defensive line they have that just got so much better with Miles Garrett, and I guess we should mention Aaron Donald potentially coming back. Like that's a pretty solid
Yeah,
addition to your defensive line if he does decide to come back. And then you obviously got Devontae Adams, Puka, Kyron Williams, Blake Corum, those like 600 different tight ends they have there in Los Angeles. So it's just it'll be fun. Like they're a fun team to watch those. So I'm excited for Stafford to get another shot at it, and maybe he can make it to the Super Bowl this year. And just it's gonna be hard to beat them this year. That's all I know. So we'll see what happens. But is that your number one too?
It is, yes.
Oh,
The uh,
shocker!
the Rams are my number one. Obviously, if you're following along, if they're not 2 through 10, then they definitely got to be number one. So yeah, everything that you mentioned. Super Bowl is in LA this year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Rams Chargers Super Bowl coming up.
Rams Chargers. I don't know about them Chargers, but the Rams definitely have a chance to get in there. Um, Same reasons that you said. All the moves they made this offseason, and then returning a really high powered offense. Stafford's still there. Um, Not sure how many years he has left. I feel like he's got a few more years left in him. He's reigning MVP as well. So I think just all the high powered offense they have, the solid, stout defense that they're going to have, like, they're just going to be a really tough team to beat. Who knows about Aaron Donald? We'll see what happens with that, but I can't see him joining the team right away. He's probably going to take a little time, try to get back into rhythm if he's going to try to play with them. But um, there's also a D tackle that became available in trades today that we'll probably get into. But yeah, the Rams, clear cut favorite right now to win the Super Bowl. So we are going to share our power rankings list for you all to take a look at. If you're
Who
watching,
do
following along on YouTube here, you can see that both of our top tens are similar, but there's also something on this chart that we have not mentioned yet, and that is our bubble teams. So if you're taking a look at here, you can see all our top 10 teams. And I'll have Taylor just quickly run through his bubble teams, why they're bubble teams, and why they're not in his top 10. Go ahead, Taylor.
So my bubble team's not necessarily in the right order. It would be the Detroit Lions, just because that offense is electric, and Jahmyr Gibbs will get an even bigger role this year. So that's gonna be pretty scary to see what Jahmyr Gibbs can do with getting the full workload back there and not having to share it with David Montgomery anymore, who's in Houston. But their defense is very questionable, so they may not be on my bubble for too long if the defense looks a little rough. And then I have the Cincinnati Bengals, just kind of like the same situation. The electric offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Higgins and Chase Brown and just putting up points left and right. And again, if their defense can take a step forward, which they tried to do this year with trading for Dexter Lawrence from the Giants, which he can only help you a little bit. So I think their defense is inevitable to be a little bit better. And if they can even just let up, say, 27 points a game, I think Joe Burrow can easily score 30, 31 to 35 points a game with that offense. So I'm excited to see what they can do this year. And then I have the Niners, who you have way up there at number seven. And I agree with what you just said, but obviously don't agree as much because they're not my number seven. So, but who do you got on your bubble, Lucas?
So I got my three bubble teams. No particular order here for these teams, but the Chiefs, obviously, Patrick Mahomes coming back. He's expected to come back for week one. I think, obviously, when you have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to be one of those top 10 teams. Um, Defense, they kind of let some guys get away from them this year, so we'll see. The Rams picked up their really solid DBs that they let go, but then I mean the Chiefs, they got Walker and Kenneth Walker now too, so I think there's still gonna be a really solid team this year. It's all gonna depend if Patrick Mahomes is fully back to himself for the year, then I think they can crack that top 10. But for right now, just a bubble team because of everything last year heading into this year, a lot of unknown for them. And I have also the Texans. The Texans still have that really good defense. You had them at 10 on your top 10 power rankings, but um, they could easily replace the Steelers probably on my list if I really wanted to. But because that defense is so good and what they did to the Steelers last year in the playoffs, for good reason, is why they're sitting there at that bubble spot. But the offense is questionable yet, so that's why I have them as a bubble team because you don't really know. I think Montgomery's going to help them out a lot, but we'll kind of see. We'll see what CJ Stroud does. We've seen a lot, two completely different QBs, it seemingly, last couple of years with him. So we'll see what they do. And then I have the Chargers as well, sitting on that bubble. Um, Kind of just sitting at like the back end of a playoff spot the last few years, and then this year I think they could sneak in. But we'll kind of see what they can do. They got to protect Herbert. He's obviously a really good quarterback still, but you really need to be able to protect him. Their defense is still all right, but those are just my bubble teams: the Chiefs, the Texans, the Chargers. There's those teams that it's just hard to put them in the top 10, but it's easy to just kind of put them at the bubble teams that they could easily be right there if they get hot, or if some guys surprise you this year. But anyway, that wraps
Yeah,
up.
I really
Go
like
ahead.
your. I was gonna say this real quick before I go on to the next thing. I really like your Chargers pick because they were so beat up last year. They were like on their second and third string left and right tackles, and that obviously showed when Herbert was running for his life and got him all banged up. So, I mean, another team I'm excited for with Mike McDaniel coming to town too. So that'll be a whole different looking offense, that's for sure. So I like that pick for you.
Yeah, and I think with Harbaugh too being with the Chargers, I think that's going to help him being in his second year. Second year, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think it's a third year yet, but yeah, second
Yeah.
year with them. Um, I think just with him at the helm, high energy coach. Those guys really love playing for him, so I think they could sneak in there, do some things. Like you said, if their O line can get healthy this year and stay healthy, they're going to be a really tough team to beat. But anyway, that wraps up our pre-training camp power rankings. Go ahead, comment on these. Did we get it right? Are we missing a team on here that could be a bubble team? Could crack that top 10 that's not even listed as a bubble team on there? Um, what order would you guys have these teams placed at to start the year? Anything you want to add to that, Taylor?
Nope, I'm just ready for football season, so can't wait to get it started.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. We are going to wrap up our NFL discussion and we're going to switch over to something that's happening right now that needs to be talked about, and that is the MLB trade deadline. It's right around the corner. Next week, what's the day?
Next Monday at 5 p.m. Central Time.
Next Monday. Streaming this on Tuesday, the 28th, July 28th. So make sure you guys listen up to what Taylor is going to hit on here. Um, Taylor and I both love a lot of sports. I follow a lot of basketball, a lot of football. Taylor follows those as well, but he also follows baseball a lot more than I do. So he's going to kind of take over this session here, give you guys some of his takes on trades that could be possibly coming up here, and then just kind of what some of these big name players are thinking about or possibly going to end up in trades, and then some big name teams as well, what they could do potentially in these trades. Over to
Yeah.
you, Taylor.
All right. So if you got anything you want to add, Lucas, feel free to jump on in.
I
But
will
trade
do my
deadline week,
best.
trade deadline week's probably my one of my favorite weeks of the summer because there's not a whole lot going on in the sports world. You have training camp starting, and then pretty much baseball, and you hear all these rumors every day, like, oh, this person reached out to them, and blah blah blah. So it's just exciting, especially when your team, the Brewers, are the second best record in baseball behind the Dodgers. So they're in a lot of the rumors, but they're usually pretty pretty chill at the deadline. They don't like to make that all in move. So I'm just hopeful that maybe one of these years they make that move to push them over the top because they got a lot of fun young players and prospects. But we also have one trade that happened already this past weekend on Saturday, I believe. We had a one for one player. Like, that doesn't happen very often in baseball. You usually get some prospects thrown in and so on and so forth. So you very rarely get that both guys in the major league get traded for each other. But Curtis Mead, who plays mainly third base, he can kind of be a utility guy. He can be first base, third base, or even second base. He went from the Washington Nationals and got traded for Conley Early, the lefty for the Boston Red Sox, who's a promising looking rookie. And it's always tough. Something about lefties. They just hate to trade lefties in baseball, and they just put an emphasis on that lefty starting pitcher. So that was a surprise to see the Red Sox move off from a rookie lefty with a lot of years of team control. But they have a lot of good young pitching in Boston, so the trade made sense to try to help out their offense. And Curtis Mead's been just smashing baseballs this year and is a pretty good power bat. So I think he'll fit in Boston and fit in well there with that team. And they've been the team of the summer, just coming off that 15 game winning streak. So this is a move to hopefully keep their momentum going and maybe sneak on into the playoffs, which leads to my next point because the standings, if you look at the standings lately for baseball, they are a mess. Where you have 6 teams just outside of the playoff picture with the yeah, actually even 7 teams, just 5.5 games back of the playoffs or better. So that's just the wild card team. So there's 7 on the AL side, and there is 6 currently in the NL as well. So we got 13 teams just outside the playoff picture. So we don't really know if they're going to be buyers or sellers or what they're going to do because usually there's more teams out of it by now, but pretty much there's only three teams on each side of an AL and NL, so 6 total teams that are just dead in the water and not going to make a playoff push. So that makes it a little bit harder to find some trades. So this could be an exciting trade deadline, or it could be a more of a dead one. So we're hoping that it's the exciting one. So we need some bubble teams to have a bad week here, like the Tigers, because they got not one of the best pitcher. He's in his contract year, so he's got 2 months left before he's a free agent. So everyone wants to get a piece of Tariq Skubal, but no one knows if the Tigers are going to be buyers or sellers or what they're going to do. But they could get a haul for Skubal if they want to get a haul and help them for the future and not just let Skubal walk in free agency because they're not going to pay him $40 million a year this offseason, which he's going to get from somebody. So that's probably the biggest one for the name wise. And you have the usual guys like CJ Abrams, shortstop for the Nationals, but that's another situation where like no one knows for sure if they'll be buying or selling, and they just made that move for the pitcher. So people are thinking they're going to be buying, but that's another guy with 2 years of control left after this season, and he just hit 26th home run last night, I believe, as a shortstop, which is pretty amazing. So people don't really know why he's available, but there was a report that said they're listening to offers. They're not aggressively shopping him, but they'll listen to teams if they call him. And the fun part about those first 2 big names that I mentioned are the Brewers are mentioned in reports of teams that are interested. So gets my hopes up probably to a fault there that there actually is some actual truth to those rumors, but it would be pretty amazing to see them acquire either the top bat available or the top pitcher, which I would hope they go Skubal because if you go Mizorowski and then Skubal in the playoffs,
It's
that's a
tough.
scary
That's
1-2 punch. So
Is so real quick is so every year are big names like this available towards the trade
pretty much,
deadline?
yeah.
Okay. And do
Especially
teams
if they're
typically
about to
make a lot
be,
of? Go ahead.
I said, especially if they're in like their last year of their contract, they pretty much become rentals at that point. So a
Okay.
team that's not like the Tigers, not necessarily a World Series contender, they might as well get a prospect or 4 or 5 in this situation and move on. But what were you about to ask? Would you have
Yeah,
something
just
else?
like how many like when these big names are available, are teams actually making moves a lot of times? Like, or is it mostly just the teams that are trying to make a playoff push making the moves, or are like teams like you said, are they just kind of selling out and saying, you know what, we're not going to make it. Here's a couple of our good players. Like, what's a typical transaction during this time?
You usually get a couple big name guys traded at the deadline every year. Like a couple, I can't really think back to last year, but like a couple years ago, Trey Turner and Max Scherzer were traded, and those one another really good shortstop, a good pitcher. Even it was way back in 2018, but the Brewers made a big move for Mike Moustakas back in the day. So that was probably the last big trade deadline move that the Brewers made. But there's always, and then relievers are traded like crazy. Those guys are always on the move. And yeah, it's just a lot of moves happen. Like once Monday comes around, it's like if you're watching MLB Network, it's every like 10, 15 minutes that there's like a breaking news and you're like, oh, what happened now type of thing. So it'll be fun to see. And then this year there's quite a bit of interesting names. And again, it's some of them like Taylor Ward, who are on the Orioles. He's a an outfielder that is a righty outfielder. And there's something about right-handed bats this year that there's just not a whole lot of good ones essentially available on the trade market. So guys like him that are rentals, going to be a free agent after this year. He's really rumored to go to the Yankees that have some injury problems right now, or I think they had the Rays listed as a possible team for him, and because those are two good teams that need right-handed power bats in the outfield. And then some other big outfielder power bats are Jorge Soler and Luis Robert for the Mets. And Soler's on the Angels, and the Angels and Mets are two of the teams that are completely out of it this year and just like 20 games below 500, and no chance for them to come back. So those are two teams that could definitely do anything to get some kind of value for those guys. And Jorge Soler is another guy mentioned for the Brewers, which again sound like a homer here again, but I love my rumors for the Brewers, and the Brewers are last in baseball this year in home runs, so they could definitely use a power bat like that because they got a lot of contact guys and not a lot of power threats. So it'll be interesting to see if one of those guys makes their way for to help the Brewers in the outfield, and then. Some other bigger names out there for catchers. There's Tyler Stevenson for the Reds and Ryan Jeffers for the Minnesota Twins. And both those teams are about 3 or 4 games back of a wild card spot right now. So no one knows for sure what they want to do. But since the top teams in the NL are so good, people are pretty sure the Cincinnati Reds, are going to be sellers this year. So they are both rumored, unfortunately, to the Yankees because, as most people are, they're either rumored to the Yankees or Dodgers or something like that. But the Yankees do have a big hole at catcher. That's definitely their weakest spot in the lineup when they're healthy. Like right now, they have their three of their better hitters are on IL. So they have a lot of holes right now, but catcher is definitely a big one for them. So I could see Tyler Stevenson ending up there for sure. And then Mickey Moniak for the Colorado Rockies is another outfielder, but he's got another year or two left of control after this year, so that makes him a little bit more valuable. And you got to pony up a little bit more and give up a better prospect if you want to get get him on your team. And then some pitchers. Pitchers are always traded. Teams are always looking for pitchers. So Freddie Peralta, former Brewer, he's one of the big ones rumored because he was actually just traded this past offseason because he was entering his last year of his contract. So the Brewers got rid of him before they had to pay him the big bucks. So he went to the Mets, and the Mets have just been a dumpster fire. So I don't think that's helped Freddie at all because when you're on a bad team, it just makes it a little bit harder to, like, the vibes, the chemistry, all that stuff just isn't the same when you're struggling and you have constant players going up and down and IL and not and stuff like that. So he's gonna be a fun one to watch because he's been a little bit rough. So maybe they'll get him for a little bit cheaper. But I could see him going to a team like Philadelphia or Atlanta, the Atlanta Braves, or even Milwaukee that needs a 4 or 5 starter for the rest of the season. And I could see him
Oh, yeah.
turning his season around when he gets onto a good team with good offense to support him and stuff like that. Because he was, I think, fourth in the Cy Young voting last year for the Brewers. So we know he's got it in there. So that's a big name, a big rental to look out for the starting pitcher market.
Oh yeah. Come back home, Freddie. Come home.
Yeah. That'd be just a fun storyline. You get two top 100 prospects for him in the offseason. You trade back like a not so good prospect back to get him, or a good prospect, but not a top 100 prospect or anything like that. So that'd be a cool storyline to look out for. And then just two of the other bigger pitcher names out there is Robbie Ray for the San Francisco Giants and Brady Singer, another Cincinnati Red player, which we're not 100% sure what they're going to do. But Robbie Ray, I believe he's a rental as well, and he's a lefty pitcher, which, as I said about Skubal, that's pretty big time when you can acquire a lefty starter. And he's been there, done that. He's had some really good years. He might have even won the Cy Young with the Mariners like 5, 6 years ago. So he's a pretty solid arm that has some good potential. And the Giants they're so rough this year, and they have a lot of expensive guys that they're trying to get rid of. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants end up doing at the deadline. But another guy from the Giants that he's probably my most likely pick to be traded is Luis Arise. He's second baseman. He's probably the best contact hitter in baseball. He doesn't strike out. He'll hit 330, 340, even 350 for stretches of the season, but he doesn't have much power. So that is That's his weakness is his power, and his defense used to be a weakness as well. But he's got a lot of good advanced defensive metrics this year that is making him more valuable because a lot of teams always care a lot about that defense. But if you can hit the ball and play some defense, you can be anywhere from one, two, three, four, five in the lineup. So that's a pretty pretty good addition for some team. And there's a lot of teams rumored for him as well, which I have some guesses later, which I kind of already ruined one of those or my predictions, but I'll say the other two predictions for the end there. And then Eugenio Suarez, another you heard this before, but he's another Cincinnati Reds, so we'll see what happens there. But he just signed a 1 year deal this past offseason, so he's a rental as well. And he hit 40, like 46, 47 home runs last year. Hasn't been doing quite the same this year, but for anyone that needs the corner infielder or designated hitter, which I could see him hopefully coming to Milwaukee, not necessarily hopefully, but I could see him fitting well in Milwaukee because the hitters park and they need some help on third base or DH or just even first base to get some pop back in the lineup. And so we'll see what happens there. And then, do you have any questions so far, Lucas? Making sense?
No questions at the moment, but I
No?
will have some questions at the end. I want to
Yeah.
hear about what my Brewers are planning to do, or possibly doing some big moves that they could be
Mhm.
making, or just teams that like playoff teams too. I know we'll probably get into it a little bit later, but just what those big playoff teams that are pushing to make a run this year. What kind of moves
Mhm.
that are best, probably like most available for them too later.
Yeah. As I kind of hinted at earlier, the Brewers, they don't really make a whole lot of moves because they're one of those small market teams, but the owners have plenty of money. They can make a big move if they want to, like 10, $15 million to pay Scooble. They'll be all right if they do that. So we'll see what happens there. But them and the Rays are your two top teams that aren't small market, I would say. And they're both in the rumors for some of the guys like Arise and Scooble and Freddie and Taylor Ward, some of the guys I mentioned earlier. So it'll be interesting to see who those guys end up going for because the Rays are the number one seed in the AL right now. So they're looking really good and they have some good players like Junior Caminero there. So they could definitely use some reinforcements to make that even more likely to be the one seed in the playoffs. And the Brewers are I think just a half game back of the Dodgers for one seed in the NL. So if they can make some kind of moves, that would be awesome for that. But my dream scenario would be to trade for Skubal, as I hinted at earlier. And the Brewers have the number one farm system in baseball. So I think it's a pretty great time to go all in and trade a prospect or two and maybe an MLB ready pitcher to send back to Detroit that they can plug into the rotation right now and just see what happens the next 2 months into October and ride Skubal and Mizorowski to the World Series. That would be pretty amazing. So
That's the
that's a
dream.
deep,
That's the dream.
yeah. It's my probably unrealistic dream, but we're gonna stick with it for now as long as the rumors are there. And then another guy who's surprisingly in the trade rumors for relievers, there's always 10, 15 relievers traded at the deadline because those guys are always moving. But one of the biggest ones is Mason Miller, the closer for the San Diego Padres. He's the guy that throws 103, 104, kind of like Mizorowski. So you could get him coming out of the bullpen, but he's got 3 years left of control. So he'll be a pretty expensive addition. But if you pay up for him, you get him for 3.5 seasons. That's a pretty good trade, I would say. But the Padres are another team that they've been bad, they've been good, and they're about actually, yeah, a game and a half back of the last wild card spot right now. So no one knows what they're going to do. But they've had some pretty good veteran hitters that have had a good last couple weeks. So people don't think they're going to sell. But if you send them the right offer, you just never know what teams are going to do if they like one of your prospects. So that's definitely probably the biggest reliever on the market right now. But there's, as I said, plenty of them to reinforce your bullpen to get a lefty or a power arm and something like that. So I'm sure the Brewers will, worst case, at least make some move to add to their bullpen because that always happens. But I hope they're not set on their lineup as they got a lot of fun young players in there, but I could definitely see some spots for improvement and get that Taylor Ward or Suarez in town and see what happens the next couple months before the playoffs. And all these guys are same with the Rays. The Rays have a pretty decent farm system as well, so they can make a big splash. But I would just love to see these small market teams make a little run for it and capitalize on the good season they've been having right now.
Amen to the small markets, that's for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. And then I'll go with my predictions right now because it kind of goes with what are some of the
Yeah.
top teams going to do. So I have Luis Ariz, who I talked about earlier, being that really good contact hitter for second baseman. I could see the Texas Rangers. I could see them going to the Texas Rangers as they're a half game up in their division, so they have a very slim lead, but they're looking pretty firmly in the playoff hunt right now. And their offense has been pretty rough, like not a whole lot of contact hitters, and they could definitely use a guy getting on base at the 1 and 2 spot in the lineup and just get in front of the guys like Wyatt Langford that have been having really good seasons. So that's my number one prediction, and I'm pretty sure Rise is going to be traded somewhere. So I feel pretty good about that one. And then I sadly have Tariq Skubal going to the Dodgers. If I'm being realistic, unfortunately, like I
Dodgers get
hate to say
everybody.
that.
They get them all.
I shared my dream, so I have to be a little bit of realist, I guess, at the same time. So, but the Dodgers, they have 9 guys in the top 100 prospects, which is absurd. Like most teams have 3 or 4, which the Brewers have 6. So they have some ammo, but not nearly as many as the Dodgers have. And 3 of them, their top 3 are all outfielders, and they're all in Double A or Triple A. So they don't really have too much room for them at the time being. So it's like, why would they not flip a couple of them to the Tigers and get a guy that'll help you win your third straight World Series right now and maybe sign him in the offseason as well? So
Yeah.
that's unfortunately my realist opinion. So hopefully that doesn't happen. And we'll be talking about something else in a week from now. But we'll see what happens there. So, and then maybe the Tigers win 5 games in a row this week and they don't trade anybody and they keep Scooble in town for the rest of the season, which is a realistic chance as well. But I say you might as well trade them and help your future. Why not? Because they're not going to win the World Series this year, anyways. And my third pick would be Tyler Stevenson, who I talked about a little bit earlier, going to the Yankees because the Yankees have a big hole at catcher, and he's just a very solid hitter, having a solid year. And the Reds, they don't seem like a team that's going to be, if they do sneak into the wild card, they're not going to make it out of the wild card series like they did last year, where they lost in 2 games to the Dodgers. I could see him or Ryan Jeffers ending up for the Yankees to fill their catcher need because they need that badly to catch up to the Rays to win that division. But those are my big 3 predictions. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right on any of
We'll
those in a
see.
week or not. So
Yeah, we're gonna touch base in a week. See if Taylor hit on
yeah,
these or if his dream's gonna come true.
yeah,
For me, I hope his dream comes true, but we'll see what happens. Who
yeah.
knows with trade rumors, no matter what league it is, no idea what's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
fans can
And then
hope.
if I had to throw in a fourth bonus prediction just for fun, because there's so many names out there, I could probably talk for the next 30 minutes about more trade rumors, but I have to cut it off somewhere. I would say Freddie Peralta will probably end up with the Atlanta Braves because they've had a pretty up and down season where they were the best team for April, and then they had some injuries and some of their best pitchers like Spencer Strider, he can't stay healthy since Tommy John surgery a couple years ago. So they could use some help at their 3, 4, 5 spot in the rotation. And kind of what I hinted at earlier is if Freddie Peralta gets to a good team with more positive culture and offense to back him up like he would have in Atlanta, I could see that being pretty good rental right there. So I can see Freddie going to either the Braves, Phillies, or Brewers for sure. My 3 teams for Freddie P to be on the move to. But yeah, other than that, those are my probably the top storylines to look forward to, and some of the most likely guys, or some of the most not likely guys, but big names that are constantly being rumored out there with the teams. So we'll see what happens over the next week.
Yes, sir. We find out in 6 short days here. By the time this gets out, probably be 5 days. So
Yeah,
hopefully Taylor hit on a few of these. Um, Moving forward with baseball, we're going to touch on baseball as often as we need to as things come up. Obviously, the trade deadline is a big deal. I think playoff baseball, a lot of people really start following during that time because it's just such a great atmosphere. It's so fun to watch during the playoff
Yeah.
time. They play so many
People like
games.
you, Lucas. People like
Yeah,
you.
exactly. So many games going on throughout the year. Um, Most people just want to follow their favorite team and don't follow too much more other than that. But once playoffs hit, usually everybody wants to watch. They want to follow along and see what's going on. And here at Cleats Courts Podcast, we will be talking about baseball things because Taylor is the man for all that stuff, always checking out what's going on around the league. He does not just follow the Brewers specifically, but he follows everything that's going on. So he's going to give his takes as much as possible. Um, Anything else to add about baseball we should be looking forward to in this next week here, Taylor?
Nothing too crazy. I'm in a fantasy baseball league that really helps me stay locked in on baseball rumors and all that good stuff and prospects being called up and everything baseball. Like it's so fun. As you said, it's a long season, but when your team's good and your fantasy team's good like mine is this year, it makes it easy and makes the season kind of fly by when you stay locked in on stuff like that. So I love baseball. Any questions, comments, fantasy relevant questions, anything like that, just put it in the comments or send us DM, whatever you want to do. Like we're always ready for stuff like that. So, but yeah, go Brewers, baby.
Go Brewers, baby.
Mhm.
Make some splashes this year, Brewers. So we need to make a run.
Which
Actually,
their
be
GM is rumored to say he's going to be more aggressive this year. So we'll see what exactly that
good.
means. So
Good. Let's get aggressive. Let's win
yeah,
something here. We
we'll
don't need
have
to
some
see the
good reports
Dodgers.
for y'all in a week.
We don't need to see the Dodgers. We don't need to see the Yankees winning anymore.
Yeah,
Let's get the Brewers out there winning,
yeah,
winning it
but
all.
yeah,
Have not seen that in my lifetime. I've seen the Packers win. I've seen the Bucks out of all teams win. Not the Brewers. I've seen them be successful. Just haven't been able to finish it off. So
yes, sir.
hopefully, hopefully soon they can make that happen. They're making the right moves. It seems like farm system's looking solid. They got the Miz, so anything's possible with that man up on the mound. But other than
Bad
that,
man.
other than that, that is it for today's episode. Once again, feel free to comment, DM us with any questions or opinions that you have that you want to hear us talk about on the show. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe, follow us, tell your friends about us. We'll be here as long as we can be. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Taylor, I'll see you soon. All right.
Y'all have a good one.
Peace.